Hopefully, this reading will enlighten, and enthuse you, and you can enliven, and enthuse others. So, all right, conquering envy. The opposites of empathy are intolerance, apathy, and envy. These negative attitudes keep people from empathizing with the less fortunate or from being of use to anyone at all. Like impatience, envy is a great destroyer of natural compassion, and those who are genuinely trying to be their brother's keeper would do well to exercise vigilance in order to avoid it. People will often encounter others with admirable attributes who perform better than they do, or who receive credit that they feel belongs to them. Envy is ultimately one of the greatest offenses against God because it emerges from interactions with aspects of God's creation, fellow human beings. Envy is the major factor that keeps people separated from their natural God consciousness. Envy cannot easily be changed because everyone is subconsciously envious of God and therefore has a certain tendency to envy any authority. In fact, all difficulties in this material existence can be attributed primarily to the fact that human beings are innately envious of God. This is so because the degree of envy represents the degree to which people break the laws of God. And to the extent to which people break the laws of God indicates the extent to which they bring misfortune upon themselves. Fortunately, as human beings become more self-realized, they find their envy of God decreases, and as it decreases towards God, it also decreases towards other human beings. Because you're a leader, some people will always be envious of you. Envy can create a drain on your consciousness and interfere with your ability to serve effectively. The situation can test your love and tempt you to react negatively. Be careful not to allow this to happen. Instead, just accept the circumstances, recognize them, and refuse to be destroyed by them. Whenever you experience envious people around you, you can always try to uplift them by projecting love, selfless, and caring thoughts. In the face of your own envy, remember that when you're able to enjoy the achievements, happiness, and success of others, you become empowered to be the carrier of high spiritual potential. Your productivity will increase and your outlook on life will be far more positive than if you view others with a sense of rivalry. Empathy and sympathizing with others are not useless exercises. They are great ways to guide, instruct, and to assist people because one learns to have a deeper appreciation of who, sorry, they are great ways to guide, instruct, and assist people because one learns to have deeper appreciation of who these individuals are, how they feel, and what their ultimate desires and needs are. In addition, empathy is essential for social and organizational stability. Anyone who has not learned to feel the pulse of other people is sitting on the time bomb that can explode when least expected. As you practice being less disturbed by envy of others in all your leadership functions, and as you overcome your own internal envy, you will automatically be transformed into a more loving being. The resulting empowerment will assist you in fulfilling your leadership responsibilities with confidence, compassion, and integrity. Try to remember the power of envy every day, not so that it becomes a fixation, but so that you work in a way that reduces the envy of others. When such envy is minimized, you can more easily mobilize people to action. The highlights of this chapter. Number one, leaders should make special efforts to evaluate their own activities to see if they are displaying true patience and tolerance. They should also observe their patterns and avoidance. They should also observe their patterns of avoidance, apathy, or insensitivity. Insensitivity, especially at those times when they need to be more involved in productive action. Number two, those who are satisfied with superficial evaluation of behavior will have difficulty being patient and tolerant. People who lack compassion for others cannot be tolerant because they do not feel obliged to adjust the worldview to factor in anyone other than individuals of importance to them personally. Number three, thoughts are things. They are composed of the same electrical, spirit-based energy that pervades the rest of the universe. Thoughts have substance and power, and the more emotional energy people give them, the faster they become manifested in reality. While giving your very best at all times, you should also remain detached and not overly preoccupied with the outcome of your actions. Spiritually conscious people know that ultimately they are not in charge. When you have tempted, when you are tempted to succumb to a desire for power and control, reflect once again on the discussion about love in the first chapter. Remember that as your consciousness is directed by love, your impatience will recede, and any area of difficulty will go more smoothly for you. Everything has its natural rhythm. In some cases, people interfere with this scheme and get rather good results. However, negative reactions will occur at some point in the future. Much of the chaos in the world today can be traced to the failure to holistically look at the long term effects of human actions. Number seven, leaders can view their role as one of coordinating the activities of those for whom they are responsible. To do so properly requires the constant awareness of being servant to others. Being a servant entails keeping abreast of the people's problems, needs, and goals in order to be in a position to stimulate growth and develop useful projects that enhance the quality of life. Number eight, when people are attached to unhealthy temporary situations, such situations can become stagnating and repressive factors in their lives. Everyone wants to be a free spirit, able to enjoy the finest that life has to offer, but the finest life has to offer is not material. Instead, it is so transcendental that it makes basic material pleasures seem bland and painful, in contrast to the sublime sentiments, realizations, and sensations offered from higher spiritual contact. Number nine, because all souls have emanated from one God, no one need feel lonely or separate. When you realize that all souls are the same and that all bodies as garments are different, you may feel refreshed, realizing that everyone is part of God's great family, sharing the same spiritual inheritance. Daily meditation on this awareness can help you become free from loneliness. Number 10, whenever you experience envious people around you, you can try to uplift them by projecting loving, selfless, and caring thoughts. In the face of your own envy, remember that when you're able to enjoy the achievements happiness, and success of others, you become empowered to be a carrier of high spiritual potency. Mindsets. Number one, read over the 10 essential technologies at the beginning of this book, concentrating on number 1, 3, 4, and 7. Practice applying these in everyday life. Whenever you are disturbed, try to put the situation in perspective by reminding yourself about the ultimate goal. In the midst of conflict, remember to see your would-be opponent as an energy of God and to consider the problem from one person's point of view. From that person's point of view. Keep in mind that disruptive behavior is actually a call for love. Number 2, patience does not mean tolerating someone from the superior vantage point, considering the other as an inferior or foolish person. Instead, patience means extending yourself and trying to understand others' position. Once again, remember that each action is either a gift of love or a call for love. Number 3, see yourself as the co-creator with the Supreme Lord, and be careful what you create or draw to. Number 4, try to have several important projects so that you will not become too impatient with any particular one that may not be progressing at your desired speed. Number 5, do your best, but do not be overly attached to the results of any endeavor. The ultimate outcome is up and the creator the ultimate outcome is up to the creator. If you think you are the sole controller, you will become a serious failure in the long run. Number 6, practice laughing at situations that are causing you anxiety, realizing that the problem is temporary and that you have the power to change. In particular, learn to laugh at negative dictates from your mind. Establish that you are different from your mind and that you have the ability to accept or reject its offerings. Number 7, be in the world but not of it. The present highly mechanized and personal structure of the modern society encourages impatience, intolerance, and erratic behavior. Number 8, practice being unaffected by the envy of others. You will gradually learn to be concerned about the welfare, but undisturbed by their behavior. Bless those who wish you misfortune. This blessing reduces their ability to harm you because your positive energy counteracts their negative energy. Remember to apply the science of love in all circumstances. Number 9, check your thoughts and actions constantly to ensure that you are not expecting or are exploiting or abusing others. Remember that the leader is a servant and not a special person who deserves privileges unavailable to most people. Number 9, make a report to God every night about your day's performance. Note those areas that need improvement and make commitments to make specific changes. Let me get some water here really quickly. We are now on chapter number 6. Give me 1 second. Okay. Chapter 6, Exercising Careful Scrutiny. Today, everyone lives in an extremely interdependent world. Because of advances in communication and the massive scale of technological development, effects from events in one part of the globe can often be instantaneously felt in another. Also, because modern society is so complex, the causes of a particular situation may not be readily apparent, despite the fact that the effects are easily noticed. Determining the underlying cause. Leaders who seek positive, lasting goals should endeavor to eliminate superficiality in all their interactions, addressing each problem at its roots. Those who rely primarily on facades ultimately encounter serious difficulty. To avoid such pitfalls, you should exercise careful scrutiny, probing beneath the surface to discover the true cause of each effect. If you are accustomed to dealing with situations quickly and decisively, this approach may go against the grain. However, a quick fix without the proper understanding can allow original symptoms to recur or renew. Unexpected disturbances develop. In your leadership role, take care not to become too complacent in any situation. Even when everything seems to be going well, any deep underlying conflict, whether in progress or in people, will eventually produce symptoms that require corrective action. The practice of careful scrutiny will encourage you to examine all these facets of a particular circumstance, taking in consideration the tensions, the problems, the motivations that may not immediately be apparent. Such a perspective allows you to recognize when appearances do not tell the whole story. As for example, if as for example, when the successes reported to you by your subordinate are deliberately distorted to create a false sense of achievement. Your plans for the future will be more successful if you are aware of the underlying realities of the present. After all, everything external has developed from an idea and internal experience that later becomes uh, manifested into this physical world. Careful planning involves breaking issues down into their most elementary components in order to identify their essence. Only then is it possible to build on a solid foundation. Those, mm, those who bypass this essential step may end up wasting their efforts, creating complex structures that unfortunately rest on the quicksand and are so destined for a dangerous collapse. Hold on a second. Identifying the universal principles. One useful way to become more perceptive about underlying causes and therefore more effective in all endeavors is to identify the common denominators and universal principles. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. One useful way to become more perceptive about underlying causes and therefore more effective in all endeavors is to identify the common denominators and universal principles in each situation. Universal principles are those basic non-sectarian truths that exist independently of human perceptions and that always operate for the benefit of the whole. The beauty of universal principles is that they connect many variables with one another and make smooth interrelationships possible among widely divergent projects um, and plans. They enable one to exercise leadership beyond the relative or transitory level. Universal principles create a common ground that engenders a greater chance of success in the interaction than in any interaction person to person or nation to nation. Each person as the energy of God. Several of the universal principles can be of a particular benefit to you. As a leader, one such principle is each individual is the energy of God. As you interact with people in the performance of your leadership duties, view each of them with concern and affection, remaining undisturbed by any abrasive personality traits. Instead of viewing your adversaries as sources of anxiety and irritation, remind yourself to see them as part of God, part of the energy of God. Despite outward appearances, this essence of each person, the life force inside that divine, inside is in fact divine. Therefore, although you may hate a particular offense, you do not need to hate the offender. This attitude allows you to maintain a high level of love, equanimity in all situations, rather friendly or threatening. Indeed, whenever you allow an opponent to upset you, you are in fact weakening your own position because your disturbance may cause you to overreact, underreact, or do harm to yourself in other ways. Also, it is important to remember that anger and frustration produce distorted and diminished perceptions. And on the physical level, hypertension, neurosis, ulcers. Instead, if you see everyone as the energy of God, you can make steady progress in all your relationships, endeavors, performing necessary actions without being distracted by anyone, friend or foe. This way of thinking takes you uh, beyond the facade, allowing you to deepen. Let's see here. Yeah, allowing you to deepen your understanding of yourself, other people, and of life itself. The life force is in all creation. More water. Okay. Another universal principle is life force. Another universal principle is the life force in each person is connected with life force present in all creation. When you grasp this idea, you understand the way to influence the collective life force is by channeling and controlling your own energy, your own life force. Your ability to do so allows you to affect the activities of the entire world. Once again, this principle takes you beyond superficial appearances, where everything may seem separate, to discover the deep connections that link you and those you lead with all life. These connections between your own life force and the universal one also mean the ultimate achievements are possible because you are always in contact with the common reservoir of power, intelligence, and love. What is true for you as a leader is also true for those who are in your charge. When you forget this reality, you minimize your potential for higher achievements, and you ignore the same potential in others. Therefore, whether you are sleeping, dreaming, or awake, try to see deeply into each person or circumstance to appreciate the power of life force at work. Ask yourself, what is the deepest truth of the situation? How is this related to the other trauma? What is my relationship to this? How can a higher good be? Yeah. How can a higher good result from this? One way to deepen your awareness is to ponder the intrinsic nature of a situation as if you were meditating with your open eyes. Then you will be you'll be viewing phenomena in your environment in a contemplative state. Therefore, on how you gain the maximum approach from each circumstance, as you reflect deeply in your on each other. Sorry, as you reflect deeply on each encounter, you begin to improve the quality of your relationships and to gain more and more control. So I'll read. I'll read two more pages. Make sure we don't go over. Okay, I'll just read one more. The source of all beauty. Another important universal principle is recognize the source of all beauty. The sight of something beautiful can help you appreciate the beauty of its origin. For example, when you see a beautiful painting, you may think, what a clever person to produce this. At first, you may see, sorry, the sight of something beautiful can help you appreciate the beauty of its origin. For example, when you see a beautiful painting, you may think, what a clever person to produce this. At first, you may see only a surface manifestation, but as you contemplate this work of art, you might reflect further about what stimulated the artist to produce such a interesting masterpiece. For example, you might think, what does an artist want to express through this? The external situation, yeah, the external situation is just a way of producing more introspection. And that introspection allows you to discover a greater number of internal truths and predictions that add to the quality of your leadership. One of the biggest issues in leadership is the need to become more expert at controlling other senses, especially when they are focused on the opposite sex. The mind is very childish, always running madly after different types of gratification. The following technique can be used and become useful. When you see an attractive person of the opposite sex, instead of becoming bewildered, confused, and losing your equilibrium, control yourself by meditating on the source of attractiveness. Marvel at the beauty that, sorry, marvel at the fact that in this single individual residence, such captivating beauty or handsomeness, and reflect on how wonderful and sublime the Creator is for having produced such a being, for those whose pleasing appearance is actually a manifestation of divine energy and creativity. Uh, when you recognize the true secret of beauty in this way, you can become even more appreciative. You can become even more uh, appreciative of an attractive person. As a leader, you're required to maintain your equilibrium at all times, beyond uh, going beyond the temptations of the senses and the desire objects. Sorry, let me read that part again. As a leader, you are required to maintain your equilibrium at all times, going beyond the temptation of the senses that desire objects of gratification in the material world. Your task is to seek uh, deeper experiences and higher connections that are attainable through the proper regulation and control of mind. So I will finish there. Next week we'll go into pleasure seeking. That's what we're all trying to do. So thank you for listening. Excuse me, any mistakes I may have made while listening, while reading. But hopefully this was as beneficial to you as it is to me as a leader. Okay? All righty. All right, Krishna.